Canada is not going to be able to get it together economically. We have politicians who are at economic unity events who can't even seem to get along there. And we've seen after the disastrous marketing and campaigning that the Liberals have done, they cannot be trusted. And money continues to flow into projects and companies that are not only unproductive, are actively taking away money from other industries which should be getting capital investment. And then, of course, when we're all distracted with these projects failing, there's so many other major problems that need to be addressed right away. We've got a bunch of insane stories to go over with today's video, especially when you compare to seeing a lot of the positive American announcements that are coming out. Let's get into it. Quick little update here on an election recount. Wanted to give this guy a shout out. Let's get into that.
So Conservative Jonathan Rowe, as you just said, has won the riding of Terra Nova, the Peninsulas, after a lengthy judicial recount. And Rowe has won this recount by 12 votes. Here's what he had to say about his victory and his priorities when he heads to Ottawa.
Talk about every vote counts.
The focus is still the same. We've got a district that is reliant on natural resources. We've got to make sure that we've got a hold this Liberal government accountable and make sure that they're aware of the importance of the natural resources it has in our industry, and make sure we can get good, powerful paychecks to local people, and make sure that we get our young people can stay here at home and continue to work in this amazing province that we have.
Now, that is the kind of accent I want to hear from a Canadian politician. That, to me, sounds like a Canadian. So, happy to hear him getting voted in, another conservative seat, conservative voice there, which is great, especially when we see the shenanigans that have come out of the Liberal Party of Canada. We know that they manipulate and they lie, and their words are very, very specific, which this video will help set the tone for some of the other stories that I want to cover. So we'll watch a little bit of this so that it makes sense for what we're going to get into next, okay?
Did you hear about the shocking news about how Mark Carney lied during the campaign about Canadian reciprocal tariffs? Bloomberg News reporting that quietly, secretively, Mark Carney dropped the countervailing tariffs on the United States in the middle of the election. And he didn't tell anybody about it.
Elbows up didn't do anything, did it?
Let me explain. The timeline of events is really important here because it shows that Mark Carney cannot be trusted. On April 17th, at the leaders' debate, Mark Carney's closing comments were this.
We're all going to stand up against Donald Trump. I'm ready. I've managed crises over the years. I've built strong economies. We will fight back with counter tariffs. We will protect our workers and those businesses, and we will build the strongest economy.
But just one day before that, he had met with his cabinet and canceled the tariffs on the US, those retaliatory tariffs that came into effect after Liberation Day.
So that means he was actively lying in those speeches. It's not a mistake. It wasn't a mistruth. He was actively misrepresenting his stance, his plans, and what he was going to do for Canada. So if you are a Canadian who voted for Mark Carney, he not only was lying to you, he was actively manipulating you with his campaigning. This is all important stuff because, again, when we're going to get into this stuff after this video, you'll see how these Liberals act. You cannot trust them at all.
This is an internal document that was published in the Canadian Gazette on May 7th. It shows that Mark Carney and his cabinet met to cancel the retaliatory tariffs. Those elbows up tariffs on the US, all was a lie. He had the gall to look Canadians in the eye during the leaders' debate in an election and say something he knew was not true.
We are facing the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. We're all going to stand up against Donald Trump.
Mark Carney said he was fighting back with reciprocal tariffs, and he attacked anyone who questioned his plan. Turns out, he wasn't fighting back at all. Mark Carney lied to Canadians about what he himself said was the most important issue of the election campaign. This is such a big deal. This matters to Canadians. He told people, as people were making up their minds as to who they should vote for, that he had the plan, that he was the man who could deal with Donald Trump, and that he had these reciprocal tariffs, and that was a big part of it. And then he hid from you the fact that that was all for show. What's so outrageous is that Mark Carney had the tariff suspensions come into effect on May 7th, after his meeting with Donald Trump, which took place on May 6th.
Now, if you watch the channel, you know I was against the reciprocal tariffs in the first place because I never thought trying to take on the US was a good idea. They are so much larger. They are the economic entity of the world. We share a land border with them. We should be doing everything we can to work with them. So I was always against the reciprocal tariffs. I'm not mad he took away the tariffs. I'm mad that his credibility was shredded from him actively lying and campaigning around a complete mistruth. Because how can we now expect any level of accountability for our leadership if top down they're already running scams and lies? And that to me is my concern, not the tariffs disappearing. I'm happy they disappeared, especially when you factor in that most small businesses make choices based on forward guidance. And if they thought, wow, we are going to be instituting these tariffs, they might have front ordered on a lot of stock that they thought was going to get hit with tariffs so that they could buy it at the cheaper price, maybe extended themselves, spent money they otherwise wouldn't have, and they planned differently. And some of the other major corporations who made decisions based on the tariffs they thought were coming from the US side, if Carney and his team didn't run on this entire campaign of elbows up, mount up patriots are going to take on the US, we could have already been having dialogue with the United States talking about getting a deal together. There's countries that already have deals. They're talking, oh, we might have a deal within another month or this. The goalpost keeps getting moved because they have no idea what they're doing. And this is so indicative of liberal behavior. And we'll get into an example of that. So look at this clip. If you remember, I showed this in yesterday's video and I talked about his statements and how important they were. Let's play it again for a refresher because it is extremely frustrating what happens after.
I know that Danielle's priority is to get heavy oil to Tidewater.
Sitting beside his Alberta counterpart, Premier David Eby acknowledged there are different priorities among Western premiers.
Premier Smith is able to convince the federal government to build another pipeline through British Columbia or a private proponent. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Eby instead touting a deal inked between BC and the Yukon to cooperate on new renewable energy projects.
So when I talked about that yesterday, I was annoyed. I said, why did he clearly use that vague language? Why couldn't he just say we would see what we could do to get a pipeline to work and to make sense? Because this event was supposed to be about economic cooperation between all of the premiers. And they asked, would you be interested in supporting a pipeline? Well, you know what? Let's cross that bridge when we get there. If she's, and he set himself up to make it look even worse. If she gets all of the approval and the interest and the buy-in, I will, cross that bridge when I get there. Why couldn't he just say, I'd be willing to work with her on the project to see how we could make it feasible, okay? Here's why he didn't say that. Did you like the video yet? It helps get this in front of more people, helps grow the channel. Don't forget to sign up for Wealth Simple. You get $25, I get $25. Link is down below. Let's get back to it. Because I have this article here, which was showing his statements after the press conference. And guess what he had to say when there was less eyes on him? Once the press conference ended, Eby took questions from BC media and was asked again whether he'd consider a new pipeline. This time, the answer was different. His answer? No, we're opposed, he said. What a backstabbing, two-faced little weasel dweeb. The fact that he clearly knew that he was opposed to the pipeline, didn't say it at this event because he would obviously look bad in front of the press to have that answer out there when they're saying, hey, at this economic, prosperity event, are you guys willing to work together on this? We know one of the biggest issues for Alberta is getting access to the ports. They want to create more pipelines. And of course, he used political language. Oh, we'll cross that bridge when we'll get there. But as soon as all of the pressure was off, no, we're opposed. Apparently, bridge found and bridge crossed because he said, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I cannot believe it. And he goes on to say, oh, we want to work on these other electrical projects for these other things. Oh, they're not at capacity for the Trans Mountain Pipeline yet, blah, blah, blah. As if, again, these nation building projects don't take years to not only build into, but also get approved and then get completed. So yes, you don't wait until the project's already maximum running at 110% so that you can start the next one, because that's going to take years and years. You stagger these things if you had half a brain, but they don't. They just keep making announcements about announcements. They have no intention to actually change anything. And they put money in the stupidest projects. Like you see this announcement here. This was an announcement about about Aspire Foods, which was a multi-million-dollar investment from tens of millions of dollars from all levels of government. And look how this turned out.
Toronto Superior Court of Justice ruling placed Aspire Food Group in the hands of a receiver at the beginning of the month. That decision was based on a filing from Farm Credit Canada, with the Crown Corporation reporting Aspire has debts of more than $41 million. Among those owed money is the City of London, and that prompted an inquiry to staff from Councillor Susan Stevenson.
The question is, what exposure do we have? Is there anything that we can do to limit the exposure there?
The city's finance department.
The exposure is millions of dollars.
Department confirms that Aspire owes just over $1 million in back taxes.
I think it's just going to be of public interest when we see that there's $1 million in property taxes owed to the city.
While being placed in the hands of a receiver is seen as a step towards bankruptcy, there are some who believe Aspire still has a viable business model. According to Professor Sylvain Charlebois, director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University, the company may have been hindered by its initial marketing approach.
We shouldn't pretend that we are out there to feed humans with bugs or crickets. There's no appetite for that in North America, or very little of it.
Speaking with CTV News last week, Charlebois said that along with operational changes, a shift in focus to alternative uses like livestock feed and fertilizer could help Aspire turn the corner.
We have nation-building projects that we can't get premiers on the same page for, but when it comes to creating cricket protein powder, we're going to put tens of millions of taxpayer dollars towards this project. Bugs. They want you eating the bugs, and that's why they put tens of millions of dollars towards this. And he makes a good point. It's not that there's no viable product for this, but why are you trying to force a product on people of eating crickets who don't want it? There's no demand. You can't create demand for something that doesn't exist. And this is why, in my opinion, Canada is not going to make it, because they think that you can create a crazy project like this, that it will be prosperous. They will put in tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars into eating bugs, thinking that that is going to help Canadians, help industry, help all that stuff. And they're going to shoot down these other nation building projects when, again, like they said in the video, if you just wanted to create a product for animal feed and other sorts of things, sure, it's not that I have a problem with governments providing alternative financing so that these businesses can get started, especially because the banks don't lend to businesses in Canada. It's a whole thing. I'm going to talk about it in a video sometime, but basically the banks do not like lending to businesses in Canada. That's why all the money goes to mortgages, which is why we're so reliant on real estate, which is, again, why I say real estate going down is a bad thing, but that's a whole separate video topic. But knowing that these people think that this was a good idea to spend tens of millions of taxpayer dollars on is why we're not going to make it. And it's why we get distracted when there's these other stories that I'm going to show you, this one here. And this one, I'm not even going to put much of my opinion on this one. I'm going to let them present the story. I'm going to read the names, and then I will just let the information speak for itself. Okay, guys, let's check this one out.
Owners of 10 different tow truck companies in Edmonton have been charged after a year-long police investigation. It's in relation to fraudulent billing practices to insurance companies. CTV's Nerman Issa is covering the story for us tonight. Nerman, what prompted this investigation?
Well, Jeff, EPS started its investigation last July, looking into reports some tow truck companies were showing up to crashes and demanding drivers use their services. Now, eventually, their investigation led them to alleged insurance billing fraud. Police say numerous tow truck companies in Edmonton were allegedly billing insurance companies for services that were not provided.
Oh, financial fraud in Canada. Who would have thought? Especially recently.
In some cases, police say companies were inflating bills, charging up to $5,000 for a basic collision tow. Those normally cost a few $100s. Now, police believe these 10 companies have fraudulently billed insurance companies more than $120,000. Now, police say tow truck drivers should not be at crash scenes unless they are called.
That if a tow truck company is just stopping by the collision and soliciting them for business, that actually is a bylaw offense. And that there's probably something behind it in regards to why they want to get that tow so bad. Because once they get a hold of that vehicle, that's when how they then build the insurance company.
They're going to get into the company names here. Once this is done, I'm going to get into the owner names. And trust me, there's a bit of a coincidence on the names. Let's say that.
Now, These are the 10 companies involved: AMK Towing, Avenue Towing, Discount Towing, Edmonton Towing Services, Infinity Towing and Recovery Services, My Big Tow, Same Boss Towing, which was formerly the Super Towing Limited, TBT Towing, Unlimited Towing and Recovery Services, and a numbered company, 2652736 Alberta Inc. Now, at least
also, remember that does say formerly Super Towing Limited. Okay, right there. I'm going to remove my picture for a second. Formerly Super Towing Limited. All right. So let's continue.
Numbered company, 2652736 Alberta Inc. Now, at least one of the owners charged was previously accused of theft. The owner of Super Towing Limited was charged last fall after police say he refused to release a vehicle to its owner after taking it from a crash site. Now,
okay, so extortion there as well. Now, again, presented without comment or opinion, okay? I'm just presenting this news as it's been presented to us. So, in the video there, they obviously only showed us the names of the company, but we were able to find this this snippet of the article thanks to, Kirk Lubomov. He was good at posting this stuff, but these are the names attached to the people involved. So, AMK Towing is Mostafa Khalaf, Avenue Towing, Madlul Traim, Discount Towing, Mahmoud El Anan, Edmonton Towing Services, Parminder Swatch, and Ravinder Tour. These are some strong Canadian names, as we know. Infinity Towing and Recovery Services Corp, Mehdi El Alouane, My Big Tow Inc., Mahmoud Madoui, okay? Same Boss Towing, formerly Super Towing. So this is the guy. This is the guy who we know had to change his name because he held a car hostage and was extorting people for thousands of dollars illegally. And his name is Hassan Al-Aban. Okay, and then TBT Towing Limited, we got Sukhjinder Singh, probably a Khalistani king like our boy Jagmeet Singh. Unlimited Towing and Recovery Services, Ahmed Ait Rice. And then the numbered companies at the bottom, it's Rojan Sivrajia. So, again, posted and reported on without comment. I am reading the names as they are described there. You guys can let me know if you think there's any sort of similarities. Anywho, let's get into this clip from this American channel, which is talking into Canada's cost of living crisis and why nobody can afford Canada anymore. Unrelated. Let's see what they have to say, okay?
Section 4. Over-immigration and loopholes.
Whoops.
Ridiculous rent, crazy housing prices, and high cost of living have pushed people to have fewer kids. But at the same time, more Canadians are retiring. So who will work then if more people are retiring than being born? Well, that's the reason why Canada relies heavily on immigrants. The problem? Canada is doing it way too fast. In 2023 alone, Canada added 1.2 million new people. That's almost a 3.2% increase. If you think that's low, in that same year, Nigeria, one of the fastest growing populations in the world, only increased 2.5%.
So, fastest growing in the world, and that's viewed as a problem there because they're not able to keep up with their population growth. And we beat that by 0.7%, which is pretty insane when you think about a percent is millions of people.
The difference is Nigeria's growth is natural, while Canada's was almost entirely from immigration. On paper, it looks great. More people, more spending, more GDP. But in real life, Canada's infrastructure is not prepared to keep up that increase.
And again, spending isn't good when there's no production, because all spending does is creates demand, which is why I always say on this channel, we have a demand problem, not just a production problem. Like with all of these things, it's multifaceted. So yes, we don't produce anywhere near the amount that we are supposed to produce, or we could produce when it's like housing and services, everything. But the only thing we can directly control and change is the demand. We can't instantly snap our fingers and double housing output.
Schools are overcrowded and hospitals are full of patients. Wait, how can this happen? It's caused by the government's policy mismatch. In 2024, The Canadian government welcomed 483,000 new immigrants, while in that same year, Canada only built around 245,000 new homes.
And that was the actual PR immigrants. This is the problem when you have like these foreign channels talking about the actual immigration numbers, because they're saying, oh, in 2024, it was 400,000. That was just 400,000 just through the regular immigration channels. But that doesn't include temporary foreign workers, and it doesn't include foreign students and, you know, families that come over. So it's like, that's such a small number compared to what the actual growth was, which is even worse.
These numbers might be enough if every 2 immigrants rent or buy one house. But the problem was, these houses were meant for everyone, including citizens, current immigrants, and the new ones arriving.
And the temporary foreign ones who are going to be here as well.
And we haven't even talked about the overstaying immigrants. From 2017 to 2024, there's estimated nearly 750,000 people that stayed in Canada after their visas expired. That means they're still staying in Canada illegally. And that...
So I've seen actually a bunch of information about that recently. So how they do some of these tests is they go, oh, well, grocery demand based around this amount of people should be about X number. And when they see that in a lot of areas that the grocery and services and all these the demand is up, they go, well, it doesn't make sense for the population that we have recorded for that level of demand to be there. So it's like, something's wrong here. And if they're saying 750K or 1 million or more, it's like these are people floating around working illegally. A lot of Indians, a lot of Chinese.
That number is a rough, unofficial estimate. Could be less or even far more.
Likely more.
So this situation means the citizens, legal immigrants, and illegal immigrants are all competing for the same homes, healthcare, and resources like food, utilities, and other to live in. Even those who come legally, they still don't get the life they hoped for. Skilled immigrants who could be engineers, doctors, or any other specialists often end up driving Uber or doing more basic jobs. Disclaimer: I'm not saying these jobs are useless. Our society will collapse without them. But if these skilled immigrants can't use their talents, that's a massive waste of potential for
I'm going to break this down in a second.
Canada. So why does this happen? Because Canada still doesn't fully recognize foreign trained professionals. They have to pass exams, which are good to ensure quality, even though expensive. And even after that, many get stuck in red tape, like limited residency spots that block them from working. And to make it worse, some employers ask for Canadian experience, which creates a trap. So it's like you need a Canadian job to get a Canadian job.
The secret doctor, the secret engineer stereotype started years ago because it did used to be a problem when Canada had a controlled and managed, strong, admirable immigration program. There was a problem with us bringing over skilled immigrants who weren't able to utilize their qualifications to get into industries in Canada where we could use more people. However, for the last 10 years, it's basically been loopholes and scams, which has led to a mass immigration into Canada that's not doctors and not engineers. So that stereotype was real, but now the reason we have people working these roles that they're talking about, oh, all these immigrants, they're all stuck driving Uber. No, the people we're getting now who come through loopholes, scams, fake asylum claims, whatever it is, are only qualified to drive Uber. They are low skilled. They can work at Pizza or, Pizza Hut, whatever. I'm not disparaging those jobs either. Those are important roles. But the fact is there's lots of Canadians willing to fill those roles. We don't need millions of people from other nations which don't fit our social cohesion at all. They are not cultural fits here. And then on top of that, we now have a skyrocketing youth unemployment rate because of this mass immigration, which is a broken program. Even the Liberal government has said the program is broken. It needs to be improved. We are just talking facts and numbers here. If you have too many people and the demand is too high, it's bad for everybody because Canadian citizens are punished by cost of living going up. The new immigrants who came here through the legal, proper channels are also getting kind of screwed over because they didn't sign up for this. Everybody's just kind of fighting at the bottom and scrambling around, just trying to get their hands on whatever's left. And it's so frustrating to see you can't have these conversations, because now look at this article that we have here. Winnipeg man charged for alleged hateful social media posts. A Winnipeg man is facing charges after allegedly posting hateful content on social media. I don't know what he posted. It could have been actually bad for all we know. But the fact is, we are seeing the tone change as they are losing control of media, as independent media creators are out there getting messages out. Again, I'm not going to go to bat for this guy. I have no idea what he said. They didn't post anything because they said none of the posts were public anymore. So I don't know what he said. It could have been horrible. So I'm definitely not condoning whatever he said. I don't like that we're seeing police now going after people for what they're saying, though, because I'm a freedom of speech guy. And when you go and you see these announcements, speaking of freedom of speech from America, and then comparing it to the announcements and the productivity and the stuff we're seeing in Canada, like, look at this announcement and what this means for America versus in Canada. All we can get is announcements about announcements, no progress, and the announcements aren't even for good things.
For more on the big, beautiful bill, let's bring in Iowa GOP Congressman Randy Feenstra. Congressman, welcome.
Hey, Mike, great to be with you this morning.
So let's start with what's in it for farmers, ranchers, and small businesses. Let's put that on the screen. Permanent enhanced death tax relief, permanent small business deduction, extends 100% immediate expensing, doubles the small business expensing, helps with new farming investments, and renews the Opportunity Zone program. What, in your view, does this deliver to folks in rural Iowa and other rural communities across the country, Congressman?
Well, I'll tell you this. President Trump's one big, beautiful bill puts economics on steroids for our agricultural community, for our manufacturing community, and for the Midwest. This is a huge win for our family farmers, especially when you talk about the death tax, when you talk about more dollars going into their pockets. I'm so excited to get this bill through. And what it also does, it rebuilds the American manufacturing and prioritizes made in America.
Made in America, American manufacturing. They're lowering taxes. They're supporting the agriculture sector. When do we ever see this level of actual Canadian progress? And this guy's pretty hype on Trump and the bill. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to get quite as hype as he is. But the fact is, these announcements are what seem to be helping areas that need help. And I keep learning more and more about this big, beautiful bill. In fact, it might actually hurt Canadians in the long run. So I'm not going to say the bill is amazing for Canada, but the fact is, Trump is the president of the United States, and he continues to make decisions that are good for the United States citizens, whereas our entire government can't even get on the same page about a pipeline or anything. So when we see this, it's frustrating to know that the Americans continue to crush it and Canadians continue to suck it. So anyways, if you made it this far in the video, you absolutely rock. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to sign up for Wealthsimple. The link is down below. You get $25. I get $25. Help support, because you don't know what's going to happen moving forward, especially with these media changes. And have a great rest of your day.